Welcome to Waukesha County GovCast, your source for what's happening in our vibrant community. I'm your host, Hillary Mintz, Public Information Officer.
And I'm Sean Lundy, Chief of Staff for Waukesha County Executive Paul Farrow.
Each episode, we dive into the latest news, community projects, and the initiatives shaping Waukesha County, where innovation meets public service. From in-depth discussions on local governance to county services, we're here to keep you informed and connected. So whether you're a resident, a business owner, or just curious about local government, join us for a closer look at the heart of your county. Welcome to Waukesha County GovCast. Today is Tuesday, February 4th. I'm your host, Public Information Officer Hillary Mintz, along with Chief of Staff Sean Lundy.
Hey, Hillary.
All right, well, we're here to help our listeners and residents understand how county government works and dive into our departments and how they impact people on a daily basis. We have an excellent episode in store for you today. Our guest leads our Department of Public Works from snow patrol to road repairs, major construction projects, and a very busy airport. You'll hear from Director Allison Bussler in just a bit. But first, here's what's happening in Waukesha County this month. We have a new district attorney, Leslie Basie. She takes over for Sue Opper, who recently retired. DA Basie was co-prosecutor in the Waukesha Parade trial and has worked in our DA's office for nearly 3 decades. More courtroom news, Judge Michael Bourne, who has presided over some very high-profile cases, including Slender Man, announced his retirement coming up in April. His replacement will be named by Governor Evers to fill the remaining term. Waukesha County is launching a brand new county website. Expect to see our new and improved look and features at the end of the month. Same website, waukeshacounty.gov. We have some county board news. Tim Donlinger has returned to the county board, replacing Jennifer Grant, who's now the new county treasurer. District 24 also has a new face. Deb Schrader was appointed to the county board by the county board chair to represent Village of Big Bend and Muskego. Deb gets sworn in tomorrow.
And speaking of the county board, recently Waukesha County Executive Paul Farrow gave the county board an update on his plans to fund county operations and declared last fall's sales tax proposal dead. The county will be looking to Madison for assistance and making additional internal cuts to balance future budgets. We're planning a bonus episode in the coming days with County Executive Farrow on his decision to forego the sales tax plan.
All right, thanks, Sean. Well, we're going to get to our featured guest today here at GovCast. We're thrilled to introduce Allison Bussler, the Director of the Department of Public Works. Allison, welcome to GovCast.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me with you this morning.
We are so glad you're here. We can't wait to hear all about the inner workings of DPW. Now, you've been with the county for more than 20 years in a couple of different roles, working for all 3 county executives. So tell us about your background.
Well, prior to coming to Waukesha County, I worked for the Wisconsin Counties Association, which is an organization that represents counties. And the issue area, or my focus, was county transportation issues. And so that's where I really learned how the money works for county highways and state roads. And then I came to work for then County Executive Dan Finley.
Very old school.
Yes. As you said, my claim to fame is I worked for all 3 county executives in Waukesha County. I then had the wonderful opportunity to work for County Executive Rackus. And during that time as his chief of staff, the DPW director left with just a short 2-week notice, and he asked me to go down and serve as the interim public works director for about 6 months and just see how things were going. And what happened was I just fell in love with the job, and he was apparently satisfied with how I was doing, and the rest is history. And for 16 years, I've been the DPW director.
That is impressive. So what exactly is the Department of Public Works? I mean, it sounds large. It is big, but that's really because we've consolidated divisions and brought them into DPW, which ultimately saves money and makes our government more efficient.
It does. And probably the division that most folks interact with or see out on the streets is our highway operations. They maintain county highways and the state roads. They plow and fill potholes. We also have an engineering division, which really are the designers of those significant improvements to county highways. We have facilities. We maintain all the county buildings, so a jail, a hospital, a courthouse, all those different things. We have centralized fleet, so we maintain not only DPW trucks, but sheriff squad cars, parks, tractors and mowers. And we also, I'm very proud to say that we, within DPW is the Waukesha County Airport. And it's a fantastic airport. And I'm proud to say a few years ago, we got completely off of the county levy. So it now serves just as a complete economic engine for the county. It is something a lot of people don't know is just how busy it is, measured by operations, which is a takeoff or a landing. And we are the third busiest airport in the state of Wisconsin. I think a lot of people don't know that because there's not commercial flights. You know, Southwest Airs, Delta is not flying in or out. It is recreational flyers, but most importantly, a lot of corporate traffic. And it really is assisting the business community in Waukesha County.
Yeah, and I think it's fantastic that we have such an asset like that here, because when you think of the corporate flyers, we have very large corporations that are headquartered here, or big corporations that also have significant operations within Waukesha County. And it is such an asset for us to have that. They're going to fly all over the country or the world, and that really helps grow our economy, supports our economic development, supports job creation. And the fact that you and your department have worked so hard to not subsidize that with any property tax dollars. You know, we talk about levy, we mean property tax money you pay on your property tax bill. And that money is not going to support that airport any longer. And it's been that way for several years. And it's quite an accomplishment for your department, but it just really emphasizes what a significant asset that is to have in our community. And we're lucky to have it. You know, you've got big events when you have the U.S. Open at Erin Hills, or things that are going on up in Kohler, or the Republican National Committee or convention being held in Milwaukee. That airport is full, and it's full of private jets, and all of that just raises our profile and supports our own economic development.
It is a wonderful asset that we have in our community. And if you ever have the listeners a chance to come and visit us in the summer for an event at the airport, Food Truck Fridays, those types of things.
Food Truck Fridays.
Yeah, it's a great way to just come and check out what we have in that gem of our Waukesha County Airport.
And Dream Flights, also another fantastic
They
event where
are.
veterans go up and take flight. It's just
Flight lessons for kids,
Yes.
all sorts of, there's a lot of activity. Flight for Life, lots of important things at the
Yes.
airport.
All right, a little bit going back to how Allison got here today. Let's talk about, DPW can often be a male-dominated field. And, you and I were both at a DPW statewide conference recently in the Dells, and I was there speaking about some media training. And it was very obvious that among fellow commissioners, women were the minority. There just aren't a lot of women like yourself running their county or local DPW. And as we've talked about, you've been in this role for a long time. And Sean and I say you're a trailblazer. So how does it feel to be characterized as a trailblazer?
Well, that's flattering. I don't necessarily reflect, I guess, on it maybe as I could. But I have been involved with this organization since the late 1990s. And it was a different time back then. And I would say that I would not still be in this job if I was overly sensitive about dumb comments, some people might have said. But I also would say that I would not still be in this job if it wasn't for the fantastic male mentors that I did have. And they invited, they took me under their wing. They invited me to sit at the table with them and really helped me grow. And I'm just so grateful for all that they did do for me.
All right, so back to a little bit more on, the DPW operation. What roads does the county maintain? Which is important to make that distinction, because if there's a pothole or if there's a road that, isn't being plowed, people call us and we want to be helpful. So which roads are you guys working on out there?
Well, and before you jump to that, when we drive down the road in Waukesha County, you might drive down what you know to be Pilgrim Road in Brookfield, and then you see this sign that says County Highway O, and you make a couple of turns, and you are on County Highway M, North Avenue. And if you drive down, let's say Capitol Drive in Brookfield, and you're headed to Pewaukee to go to Costco or Chick-fil-A or something, you see a 190 sign. So not to be too Seinfeldian here, but what's the deal with all of the numbers and letters and road signs?
Well, what a great question. And it is, there's, I think, a little quick cheat to remember that by. We do get a lot of folks that contact our office that might have a concern about a road that isn't ours, and we have to redirect them to where those calls should go. But here's the cheat. All the numbers, so 190, 83, those are state highways. All the letters are county highways. So County Trunk Highway O, County Trunk Highway VV or Y. And the words, Maple Road, all those streets, they are more typically local roads, a town or a village or a city. So the one little nuance that I would say is oftentimes county roads have two names. So it might be Silver Spring, but it is marked VV on the road. So that's how you'll know if you're driving down the road and there was one of those letter signs that it is indeed a county highway.
And the value, I think, in the public knowing that is that, we have very high customer service ratings. And I know your department, you've got little competitions going who can deliver better customer service. And we give out awards for that sort of stuff. And we don't want to transfer somebody that calls into your office and say, hey, call the city, call some town, whatever. We want to be able to deliver high quality customer service, answer their question right away. So I think the more people know about who that person is to contact, the smoother it will be to get that answer and the more direct response they're going to be able to get.
And you know what? That happens every day. We have folks calling in because they're just not quite sure who's responsible for a road. And so we redirect them. We're practiced at that. But it would save them certainly a few minutes if they just knew that little tip on how to know who's in charge of what roads.
But we do plow some of the state roads. I mean, it's not like we get to one up. It's not always like that.
Right. We have the relationship. Counties in the state of Wisconsin are the only counties in the nation that maintain state highways. It's a long-standing agreement where we contract with the state of Wisconsin. And what that has proved to show time after time when they audit the process is that it is very efficient, which makes sense because the state highways are connected to our county highways. And when we're plowing the most efficient routes, that's how we accomplish that. Those efficiencies are because we work together closely with the state of Wisconsin.
And, it is February, so we're not out of the woods yet with winter and snow. In fact, I think there's a mix in the forecast for Wednesday evening. But, the number one reason people watch our local news, listen to the radio, or read the paper is because of the weather. It is the number one reason. And it really does have a true impact on their lives. How long will my commute be impacted? How long is it going to take to get to work? Are my kids going to be off school today? Or do I got to stock up at the grocery store on milk and, very expensive eggs now? But
ripped from the headlines.
As you guys know, I spent almost 13 years as a local reporter at Channel 12 here. And I called you guys probably every storm. We had to get that shot. That was really the money shot was the pouring the salt, scooping it out of the dome, pouring it into the truck. That was it. That's what we lived for, right? And the ride along. Anytime I could jump into the cab of a plow for that ride along was, I was like, I hit the jackpot that day. That was great. And so I was always very appreciative, of you guys working with us. But I also know that while that can be a super big deal in the beginning of a season, it becomes a little, I know for you guys, highway ops crews, that's their job. That's what they're here to do. It's a little more mundane when we get the couple inches here and there, but still it's visual, and that's what the reporters want. That's the news of the day, right? And we go, we try to provide that for them. But kind of take us through, though, what that prep time looks like, the 24 to 48 hours, maybe before a storm and then kind of during and after?
Well, prep time, of course, really occurs significantly longer than 24 hours in advance. And it, the big things that we focus on are our equipment, number one. Do we have the right equipment, the right amount? Is it in working order? Is it safe? Those are very important things. Do we have the right materials? Is it what's the weather? Is it snow? Do we want to use straight salt, salt brine, even colder, sodium chloride, all of those types of things. And also the drivers. We're very cognizant of their training, and a snowplow without salt's over 25,000 pounds going down the highway. And so it's very important that they operate with great expertise and care around the traveling public.
And so you have that big truck full of salt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Salt's expensive. Can you confirm or deny the rumor that it's so expensive that you considered using pepper?
We consider everything. Absolutely.
That was my
everything.
obligatory
But bum.
dad joke. But those trucks, all jokes aside, those trucks are not dumb trucks. They are smart trucks. There is a lot of technology that we utilize not only in our route planning, but on the trucks themselves. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The trucks are equipped with sensors that know we can see how fast they're going. Is the plow up? Is it the plow down? What is the temperature of the ground? What is the temperature of the air? At what rate are they distributing material, salt? All of those things we have the capability to see and monitor on our trucks.
And so there's an economic side of that, right? You want to preserve as much salt as possible because you're throwing money on the road, right?
Absolutely.
And obviously there's the primary concern about public safety, that we're doing the right thing at the right time and trying it out. And it's not science necessarily on the exact right moment to lay the salt down or begin plowing roads and doing those things. And we know those things through past history and our experience, and we're able to do that efficiently and do it well. But there's a ton that kind of goes into that. And I will say that, over the summer, we had a budget task force group that we had members of the public and the business community, nonprofits, talking about revenue available to the county and the county's budget, and like looking at our expenditures and kind of diving into our budgets. But we also had discussions about broader activities that the county might partake in the year. One of the things that got brought up more than once, which I thought was interesting because it was like in July, people were asking about, why do we wet the road before it snows? They think it's water and it's going to freeze and make it worse. What is a plow truck doing? Why do we do it? What's the science?
That's a great question. And there is a lot of science behind it and a lot of study and data. And what we are making is salt brine, and it's about 23% salt and the rest liquid. And it's kind of a slushy mixture. And it has proven to be very effective in some temperature conditions, in that because it's kind of slushy, it sticks to the road. When you have straight rock salt, there is a lot of bounce, and some of it bounces right off the road into the ditch. And that's number one.
That's not very effective now, is it?
No, number one, that's dollars going down the drain, if you will. And it is not, it's runoff. It runs into all of our lakes and streams, and it's not good for the environment. So if we can use less salt, it saves us money from the amount of material, but it also reduces that bounce and saves that salt from going into our drinking water, in the streams and lakes in Waukesha County.
And
however, once it hits about 15 degrees or colder, it becomes less effective. And so you have to know that and manage it. And then we switch, and it's a little bit more sodium chloride, which can go a little bit colder. And sometimes it is still straight salt. And it really depends on the condition and using the right technique at the right time.
So you guys are constantly like a lot of people, watching the forecast and watching,
Well,
how things are going to change, which sometimes can be unpredictable.
right. And when you say constantly, for us, it is literally, someone is always watching the weather in Waukesha County DPW, and they are they have a variety of sources of information, the news, the local news, but we also, in a great partnership with the state of Wisconsin, they provide a special weather service to all county governments who maintain the state highways. So it's a great partnership. It's efficient that we have this one subscription, if you will, but then it's helps counties communicate with each other and know what we're predicting for weather.
Also, in my former reporting days, I remember a big headline back then was the use of beet juice.
Absolutely. Yes. And so I would tell you that through the years, highway departments are innovating all of the time. Our goal is number one, what is the safest? But number two, what's cheaper? And how, and we've experimented with beet juice, and other counties have, excess product from making cheese, and lots of different excess product from making soy sauce. There's been a lot of counties. We share a lot of information. Right.
Anything that will lower the freezing temperature of the water that can be mixed in.
Absolutely, that otherwise would have to be taken to a landfill or disposed in some other way. Can we use it usefully? We have a great system that we have installed in Waukesha County. Near a salt dome, you're required to have a retention pond, because we're loading salt in a dome and pulling it out. And sometimes it might be raining and there's runoff. And so we have to catch all that salt so that it doesn't run into the lake or the stream. And then we were paying to have those tanks pumped and disposed of, and nobody wanted that material. And we were like, it's that great salt is down there. And so we have a system now where we can reuse it and put it back on the roads. And so it saves taxpayer dollars. It's good for the environment. Again, we are always trying to figure out ways to save money. This year, one new thing we're trying is solar salt. And really what we're experimenting with is the big salt we get from Jones Island. It's not pure. There's some rocks and things that are in there. And when we make that salt brine, it clogs up that system, and it can take days and weeks to clean it out, a lot of man hour to clean out those systems, to spray it effectively. Solar salt's a little more expensive, but we're not seeing hardly any of that cleanup time. And so we're judging, is it cheaper? Even though the salt might be a little bit more, the overall process might be more inexpensive.
Just when you thought you knew everything about salt. All right. We talked a lot about winter, but and despite that pesky groundhog seeing his shadow, apparently we're not done with winter yet. But spring hopefully will be around the corner. Warmer temperatures will come. Sun will come out. Grass will grow. And when that median grass gets a little high, boy, does your phone. You guys get it's probably one of your top complaints, correct?
It would be, yes, absolutely. And
but it's also an example, though, of our year-round services.
It is. And so we have, and what happens is, as I mentioned, we contract with the state of Wisconsin to maintain their roads, the state highways, but they determine that level of service. They don't say, they forbid us from going out too much. It saves them money if we don't mow as much. And they have, everybody has tight budgets right now. And so one of the areas they've cut recently is in some of their mowing. But on the county system, I would say that you could expect to see you could see us out mowing and what I'll call a long line, or just driving down the highway on the side of the road. In May to June, there'll be a cut, and then we'll cut again in August. But then we do cut more often in urbanized area if there's like a curb and gutter, that's a good rule of thumb. And the state policy there is we're not allowed to cut it before it gets to 9 inches. So we wait for that 9 inches and then we start cutting. But it takes us about 3 weeks to get around the county because we have so many miles of highway and grass to mow. So so the counties, I would say in those urbanized areas, we cut every about week and a half or 2.5 weeks. But I'll give you a big caveat. That's perfect conditions. If it rains and we're not allowed to mow, it takes longer. They put in the RNC, a great event, and then we're redirected to mow a little bit more so things look nice. And we can't quite keep up with that schedule. But in general, about 2 weeks is the county schedule. And so some municipalities have stricter mowing rules on the books. And so they would like it to look like a lawn, which isn't the level of service we have. And the state has an even lower level of service.
And in the grand scheme of things, we're talking about tight budgets. We've mentioned it probably every podcast we've had so far,
Right.
that we're talking about that. And we talk about how we have to balance priorities and we have to make some decisions. So while aesthetically, everyone would like a median to kind of look like their yard might look, we have to prioritize, storm cleanup and other things
Right.
that might be going on at the time. And mowing, while important, isn't the absolute number one top priority.
You got it. Our safety is our top priority. And so as that relates to mowing, we would always make sure that vision corners are clear, like it's never getting so high that a motorist can't see over the grass. But we do focus on those safety items, a pothole, something like that. And sometimes aesthetics is second on our list or third.
So we're getting tight on time, but I just did want to ask you one question, maybe, spend a minute or so on it. But we do have the state budget coming up. The governor is going to introduce the budget in a couple of weeks. We will have a state representative on our next full podcast episode discussing the state budget and what actually made it into the final version of his budget. But can you talk to us for a quick second about the county's relationship with the state as far as funding is concerned? If we have a big project, and Brookfield, New Berlin, Moreland Road is being reconstructed in segments, you have a huge chunk of federal money associated with each of those projects. You then have this pot of state money, and then you have a local match or whatever the county would be contributing to that project. So how important for a project like that or other big projects in the county, how important is the state budget and the outcome that we'll ultimately see in, let's say, first week of July or something when the legislature wraps up work?
It's very important. And one thing that can be confusing to folks is that transportation dollars, they come in different methods and from different pots. And so they can only be used for certain things. So we can't really take money from a project and say, just mow more. You can't do that. And so I would say if I could advocate on behalf of the average caller into our office, they really like to see money going into operational costs. It's the snow removal, it's filling potholes, it's mowing, and those are operational dollars, and they're funded through general transportation aids and our levy. So that, I would say, is the tightest pot of money, and it's the thing that folks love the most. We do have a little bit more opportunity through different programs to do construction projects. And so our department is aggressive based on direction from our boss. Let's maximize our local dollars as matching dollars for grants. So, and some grants are fantastic, as much as 90% federal funds for safety initiatives. And so if we can find that 10%, so we really try to do that. But we have to be creative and sometimes, cobble things together. For example, that Moreland Road example, it's really one project, but we had to break it into 6 different segments in order to apply for different grants and get different money so that we could make it work in one cohesive plan.
Well, Allison, we can't thank you enough for sharing your insight into how DPW operates and salt technology and snowplow technology and everything else you mentioned today. Thank you so much. So we want to have you back at some point as GovCast continues. And for more information about DPW, you can check out waukeshacounty.gov/DPW. They're also on social media, Facebook and X. And don't forget to subscribe and follow GovCast, and stay tuned for the next episode of GovCast when we'll be joined by a local state representative and take a closer look at how the state's budget will impact us at the county level.